What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part lucky number 13 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Mannfred von Carstein Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, Kugath's main stack has been knocked out. The western provinces are our vassals, and we are heading down to the Dragon Isles to take them for ourselves. It's a long time coming, I guess, but, well, at the same time, not really. It's just I've been eyeing those islands for a fairly long time now, and all the money that they are likely to bring in with that sea dragon's teeth, with all those ports there, and the, well, and the various trade goods as well. And it's nice to see, and it'll be nice to have shortly. Otherwise, Manny is moving southward as well with Friedrich von Karlsburg, and we have begun the war against Kairos, though as to whether we declare war on the Order of Lore Masters and the Zlatlan Lizardmen, and we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, in terms of what we gotta do this time, well, other than Manny toting around where he is, there are a few other things that we will need to consider. First of all, the things I did between the episodes, though. I did decide to end the turn just to cut down on the admin in this particular turn a little bit so I could move the heroes around and all that, and I wanted to deal with the items for Heinrich Kemmler as well, who is now back. He will be having his army soon. He does buff the skeletons, so we'll probably use skeleton spears in combination with various ghost units, though because he gives regeneration, horrible regeneration to be specific, to the Hex Wraiths and the Cairn Wraiths, the already regenerative spirit hosts probably won't be needed nearly as much, even with their enfeeble attacks. So we'll stick to Skelly boys in this army instead, and just because, well, we have them being buffed here, and we're not really using them too much elsewhere at the current time. Otherwise, there is a couple of other things to consider. First of all, I feel like in order to make, some use of our allies, what we're going to do is we're going to start periodically borrowing their armies and, well, rather than essentially attacking the enemy, we'll use them out at sea to get a few islands for us. Their auto-resolves will probably only mean at least, I don't know, maybe a couple of islands only, but that'll be better than nothing. And this way we won't have to spend many turns getting our own armies out there. I think it'll be a better use of our time. So, and frankly, some use of these allies in general. It's going to cost all of our allegiance, but we're not really using it all that much anyway, so once again, I just feel like it's a good idea. So, go out there, start picking up islands. We'll probably make at least one sort of seagoing army, but it'll be an auto-resolve army anyway. And a few islands will be picked up ourselves, like Ludwig von Deal is looking to get his first battle up against the Skull Island with the Bone Giants and with his Necrarch army. Anyway, let's start from the top, shall we? Manny, you should attack the Order of Lore Masters. You know what? Before we do that, there is another thing we may want to do, similar to what we did with Gorsty. We're going to ask for military alliance with Vladdy and 3,000 gold. But what this will do is it will force him into wars and it'll make him weaker. Granted, the Order of Lore Masters probably won't be strong for very long, but it's still, I think, the better option here. The Become Vassal has significantly decreased, but once again, we'll do that, then we will declare war on the Order of Lore Masters in Zlatlan. Now, originally I was thinking maybe we keep these guys around, keep them friendly, but at the end I decided that perhaps that wasn't the right move. And the reason for this being not so much the defeat rates or anything like that, just because you have to choose between the living and the dead, essentially, because we already only have a couple of living allies, and our own allies are really starting to hate us because of the treaties with Goldtooth, Northern Provinces, Western Provinces, and Jade Court. Frankly, we will most likely have to divest ourselves from most of them, and maybe just keep, I don't know, like the Western Provinces around and delete the rest, and just so that we have at least one sort of a vassalized faction. Anyway, we are going to declare war on, I guess, the Order of Lore Masters. It doesn't really matter who. Declare war. We'll see if Zlatlan joins them, and, well, okay, Zlatlan will join them. And let's give Teclis a fight, shall we? How much spell resistance does he have, out of curiosity? 45. Alright, so we may have to kill him the old-fashioned way, which I'm sure Manny will be just fine with. We probably don't want to draw him out, so let's go directly at Tor Surpindar and attack it. Alrighty, Pyrrhic victory casualties high. That is interesting to see. Teclis does have a lot of stuff available to him, and, well, we'll see what he can do with them. Yeah, but his stats probably won't allow him to... Oh, damn, he has a lot of items. Huh, interesting. And, oh, since we got Kemmler now, we have his quest. So the AI has only done one of his quests, so that's 2 more free quest battles for us, which I'm pretty happy about. Yeah.
Surpass Nagash.
Alrighty, here we are, and here we go. Teclis's delicious defeat trait is on the menu, and, well, it'll take a little bit of melee action and a little bit of spell action, most likely, to bring him down. We do have the other Trickster's Shard, so the massive spell resistance at 45% that Teclis has won't be nearly as much when we get there. Frankly, it's making me think what we want to probably do is get the Trickster's Shard arcane item on our vampire, so she can provide a little bit of support to Manny by reducing enemy spell resistance even further. Anyway, Manny's flying around. He does get hit with a Spirit Leech. I think that wasn't from Teclis, but from one of the... I think he doesn't have Spirit Leech, so it must have been one of the lore masters there, but anyway. Anyway, Manny continues to move forward. The enemy Phoenix will attack him and annoy him, dropping... Wow, look at that. The aura and everything dropping Manny. Look at his stats. Down to 22 melee attack and 9 melee defense just due to the enfeebling foe and whatever else is hurting us. And on top of Blizzard aura. And our speed is down to 68 at the current time, and if the Phoenix hits us, it'll be even lower once we get hit by the by Frostbite. Alright, but all good. Manny will touch down a little bit, annoy the enemy artillery piece a decent bit. Unlike with other, let's say, more honorable lords, we really don't care about sending Manny in first to annoy the enemy as much as possible and delete their ability to hit us from a distance. That said, the Phoenix and, well, actually Teclis are going to be the much bigger and more important targets, and Manny is starting to take damage. That enfeebling foe has hurt him. 37 move speed with that Frostbite on him. I'm going to back off and try to head towards Teclis. Unfortunately, we can't spam Spirit Leech until we're close to Teclis, as we need the other's Trickster's Shard to close the distance. Going to do a bit of damage to the enemy lines with a nice Wind of Death, basically hurting a unit of archers and spears, but leaving the more elite units relatively unharmed. Moving towards Teclis now, we've closed the distance, and here comes the activation of the other Trickster's Shard, as well as the Master of the Black Arts. Spirit Leech should actually do some damage now, as long as we maintain distance with Teclis. In the meantime, Varric the Blade leads our cavalry forth on the left flank, charging towards the enemy war lions, as well as whatever cav we can find. Varric and his Reavers versus war lions should definitely go in our favor, as those great swords rip the lines to shreds. 47-43 solid stats. We got 72 melee attack and 47 melee defense, plus we are massively armored, though the warlines do plenty of armor-piercing damage at 44. Pretty darn solid. Another one of our units of Black Knights did manage to get away and is now running down enemy archers. Teclis is down to half HP, and the rest of our army is on the approach. Looks like the enemy will attempt to charge forth at our sword and board in Graveguard. This is kind of the only army where we're really using the sword and board variant, and just to keep it a little bit different. But it looks like at the very least the Lyrian Reavers are far too weak to charge like that. Also the debut of the Claw of Nagash and our first Mortis Engine. All Mortis Engines are extremely nasty units, and this thing will cause tons of damage all over time, all the while healing up and buffing all of our units. Teclis is down to about 40% of his HP, and by the looks of it, a couple more hits and or Spirit Leeches will bring him down. And there we go. Actually taking a decent amount of time to bring him down, but we're getting there. And by the looks of maybe one more hit, 1000 HP, 1 or 2 more hits. Hit and a Spirit Leech, perhaps. He can't get away if nothing else, and there we go. The Spirit Leech brings him down. The rest of the battle is still going in our way, and the enemy's center line, at least, has collapsed by the looks of it, under the ministrations of the Barrow Guardians. The enemy noble here, who led the enemy charge, has been defeated by our newly added Vampire. And this Vampirus is supposed to provide buffs to our main line, so I don't know whether we'll bother putting her on a Hellsteed, but we'll see. Anyway. looking pretty good. The enemy backline is, of course, in havoc, as well as the enemy archers are attempting to get away from our Black Knights. And unfortunately, without some heavier cavalry of their own, or, I don't know, Lothern Sea Guard or anything that goes anti-large, they won't be able to defend against the Black Knights, causing havoc in their back lines. Battle is about 80% in our favor at this point. Manny has found the second enemy lord who has arrived on the field and won't be here for much longer as somebody loses her head. Looks like a Fata Biuna will prevent the White Lions here from rallying. And the enemy Frostheart Phoenix is still in the fight, and probably the Frostheart Phoenix that Tekla started with, but I'd wager probably not for too much longer. White lines surrounded now. The enemy archers are all silent. A debuff comes down, I believe a soul blight on all these white lines that are still fighting. Phoenix is still holding, but by the looks of it, not for much longer, and there we go, it'll shatter, and with that, Teklis's army is done for. Man, all those debuffs on Manny certainly made it a dangerous proposition for him, but I'm sure the trait we were looking for will be worth it. Oh, finally we get a Lichbone Pennant. I've been waiting to get one of these for absolute ages, it feels, and I'm glad we have one. There's many a lord that could use it, the Blood Dragon Lords in particular, because they don't have magical damage. There's many units that could use the additional magical damage. Frankly, we need more Lichbone Pennants, if anything, because it's just so nice. Anyway, a lovely battle. Manny proves his magical mastery over Teklis and defeats him quite handily. Teklis unable to do any damage, though he did get hit with a fair few Spirit Leeches from one of his little minion heroes. We could have, of course, silenced all of them with the Withering, and I think we did at one point, but, well, it was interesting to see how much damage Manny would take. Manny got a nice Wind of Death going through the enemy, but otherwise was hunting elites, and while getting 54k damage, his damage dealt value as gold was 6,000, pretty darn solid. 20k damage on the debut of the Claw of Nagash, and otherwise, let's see who won. Looks like it'll be the Impalers and the Whites of the Nine today for the Black Knights, and as for the Halberds, well, they didn't have as much chance, but by a... oh, wait. No, I was going to take a look at this. The Sternsman looks like the Holenwachter did it again, though they do have the Razor Standard buffing them up, to be fair. But, well, I mean, it's not a crazy buff, so it's not just that. Anyway, we will occupy the place, of course, because we're down here anyway. And the other reason we were down here is this, the defeat trait of Teklis, which is what we wanted, which is why we were planning to originally get it anyway. Winds of Magic plus 50 is a huge buff to a caster lord like Manny, and a fairly powerful one at that, so yeah, very nice. Plus, in combination with the Black Pyramid of Nagash, we almost have 300 total Winds of Magic power reserve. Lovely, got a free student and a Shrieking Blade as well. And wait, okay, you don't have a student because you're new. And Jelly von Waldenhof, and you can have a student. 2 students. All right. I think one of these guys. Okay. Okay, fine. Take a look at it this way. There we go. You don't have a student, and just said it. Well, none of the vampires other than the current one would have a student anyway, so we'll transfer to one of the vampires as needed, and maybe to you guys, since you don't appear to have gotten stuff either. Anyway, nice defeat trait. Manny, you've leveled up, but I think we'll take care of that later. We still have other elves to deal with and Kairos to knock out, as well as his defeat trait. Also, since we're going with this theme and with anything Nagashi, as somebody suggested, the Claw of Nagash can be the Claw of Mannfred as well. I'm very much enjoying this theme, and it does feel like something Manny would do, as he's just that petty. I mean, he's very arrogant. Is he more petty or is he more arrogant? That's the real question. You know what? While we're doing at least one name, maybe we can add a few others to the list. Let's do this. One more of the Thousand Wings. Fell, but Wait, didn't we have a Felbat name already? Odd. Hopefully there wasn't a Felbat that was already named that died and I didn't notice, because, well, if anybody remembers what it was, please let me know. But that's why I do warn you guys about naming zombies and bats and all that, because it's a bad idea, because they'll die. Anyway, and Dire Doggos, let's do Scooby and Don'ts. Very nice. And while we're naming basic units, now that we have Helm and Gorsty on the field, we can feel free to name zombies, as they're a lot less likely to die as compared to the way they were before. In pretty much every army, but in Gorst's army in particular. The Shambling Horde for you, sir, and a Zombie Bombi for you. Lovely. Alright, you got your first two named zombies, and we'll probably keep it to that number. These guys will get replaced by Rotting Leviathans, and then we'll have some heroes, a couple of Mortis Engines in the army, and that'll be it. Maybe even the Mortis Engines won't be necessary. We'll see, I'll think about it. We need something to dish out the damage to big units, but hopefully the Rotting Leviathans can deal that if our allies ever end up actually building them. Anyway, so a few more things. We are, as I decided, going to keep a few of the Black Knights with the Red Duke here. 4 of them, namely. 4 Blood Knights and 4 Black Knights. Let's see what we have for Black Knights. Oh, wow, we have a lot of these, too. Okay, Relics of the Dune Wars, which is a very appropriate name specifically for the Red Duke, and so that's where he was found by Abarash. Responses Reprisal, which also makes sense for Knights. Lovely. Alright, what do we have here? Well, we can name one of the Ghost units. Let's name several Ghost units, why not? Why not? We're doing a round of names. I think I forgot to do a round of names last episode, so we might as well do one this episode. Let's see, we have the Chilling Breeze and the Woe and the Whalers here. Karen Wraiths are all unnamed. Alright, let's do some Karen Wraiths then. Let's do Soul Reapers. Like so. Misty Terrors. And Ghosts of Hemry. Let's do at least one Hex Wraith. Hex Wraiths, you will be the Pale Scythes. The Pale Scythe was a suggestion for a Banshee name, actually, but frankly, I got like 50 Banshee name suggestions, and look, we're not going to have that many Banshees, guys. Relax with the Banshee names. It's just not possible. Speaking of Banshees, well, we're here. Let's do a U2. Let's see. Oh, okay, so we have Banshee name suggestions for both Assassin Banshees and non-assassins. Okay, I think this is for non-assassins. Where's Whaley? Unlike Where's Wally? And you can be the most famous Banshee in all the land, Ghostface. Alright, and while we're at it, let's name a couple of the Assassin Banshees as well. You, Assassin, are going to be, let's say, Bloody Mary. And we have our other Assassin here, you. Ooh, I really like this one. The Gossamer Garrot. Oh, for the love of... Why not one line? There we go. Alright, that looks good to me. Do we need to do any more names? I mean, we could do just a couple more. Just a couple more. Or else we'll have like a 50 billion names to do next episode, and it'll be a whole thing. I can name some of the Blood Dragon units as well. They're not on field yet, and generally I like to name things once they've done some stuff, but just so I don't forget. You can be in Carrier for one of the Blood Dragon Warriors, and then one of the Blood Knights here, you can be the Lost Crusaders. Alright, and oh wait, you know what? We have another Blood Knight unit, our first Blood Knight unit with the Red Duke, so let's do one of his. You can be the Red Death. Alright, and I think we only got the one suggestion for the handgunners, but well, we were using them, so why not name one of the, drowned Fusiliers. There we go. And you know what? Since we ended up on you, might as well have you attack. Inevitable Death. Go see if you can... Oh, I already moved you this turn. Okay, so none of that. Let's see about fighting some lizards then, shall we? Why not? And close defeat, you say? I mean, that's a lot of enemies. We also have the War Banner here. We're going to pop it onto one of our newly acquired Rotting Promethean Gunnery mobs and see what we can do about all the lizards. Pike and shot, go again. Alrighty, here we go. Frederick von Carlsberg, our blood dragon, our sort of imperial tactics slash Renaissance style tactics, pike and shot army is ready to go. Once again outnumbered, unfortunately, since the well, this army isn't going to be as good as certain other armies at fighting when it is outnumbered, simply because we don't have enough units to protect all of our range. But well, we'll do the best that we can here. We do have the advent of the crabby boys now, rotting Promethean gunnery mobs. Will they be able to range ahead of the army and, well, get back as needed? They'll also be led by the White King into battle as we try to do as much damage to the first of the enemy armies before the second and third arrive on the field, especially until things like Saurus and Temple Guard, which are very much present in this army. Ooh, we got Cold One Riders, a couple of monstrous units, including a healer, a couple Lothran Sea Guard, two Temple Guard. Yeah, definitely going to be dangerous here, so we gotta dish that damage out. Anyway, here come our rotting Promethean gunnery mobs, gonna crash into the lines of enemy skinks as best they can. We've also set up our units of handgunners and our units of deck gunners, and they're gonna do their best to reduce the number of skinks. Although I suppose the armor piercing will be wasted on the skinks, the little bit of splash damage from the explosive shots of the deck gunners definitely won't be. Holding a big old pile of units on the left flank with our 2 units of rotting Promethean gunnery mobs. They're working together simply because they'll help keep each other safe. Normally we'd be using them to anchor our battle lines, as it's good to sort of intersperse monsters or monstrous units among your infantry. But here we needed to be a little bit more on the offensive. Alright, handgunners have a decent firing position. There we go with the handgunners and the cannons firing together. The first of the enemy lords, an ancient Kroxigor, or Kroxigor Ancient, gets brought down. It does look like at least a few of the enemy's units have made their way forward, as a unit of Feral Cold Ones manages to charge through and gets to one of our units of handguns, but fortunately our Blood Dragon Lord is there, now surrounded by the Cold Ones and keeping them in their place, while the Halberdiers have moved to respond. And I'm sure the unit of Feral Cold Ones will get torn apart. I love fighting with this army. It just feels so completely different than playing as the Vampire Council normally does, and frankly it even feels different than playing the Vampire Coast. It does feel like you're playing the Empire, just undead, which makes it so much better. Anyway, flanks are still protected, so the enemies are still failing to get through our lines of Graveguard, and we're mostly using them / moving them to shadow the enemy army's movements, as in if they try to close the distance with our handgunners, we shadow the enemy to prevent their charges. That's the plan, anyway. And guns keep on firing at those skinks. There we go, there we go. Really could use that extra range and damage, but all good. And it looks like the enemy reinforcements are here at last. That's a big old pile and a lot of dangerous units in there. The faster moving skinks will lead the charge though, and we have a little bit of time to put a dent in their numbers. I love all the multicolored skinks. All of the different scales and crests that they've got. It's so adorable. Too bad we're going to have to obliterate them. Or at least to try to obliterate them, assuming we don't get overrun, as the first army has not yet completely been destroyed before the second arrives. Get that Scab Skrath off, the bound sword that we have on our Necro, that we've generally been just putting on the Necros to act as a supporting ability. But that only puts a small dent in the massive piles of skinks. And moving through skink and zombie alike, here come the enemy monsters as well. We're gonna have to add a few more zombies to our ranks in order to hold the enemy back, while the handgunners focus down the enemy feral steg, and then afterwards follow it up by firing upon the enemy Basti with a Reviv crystal. The line of skinks has gotten pretty big at this point, so it's time for a big old magical artillery bit of our own. They've lined up nicely, and here comes the Wind of Death to bring at least some of them down. I'm sure it'll clip a few of our zombies, but that hardly matters, especially as this will cost us enough mana so that our zombies will probably start disintegrating anyway. There we go, we're running out of time. 417 kills and 81k damage on Lothar, looking pretty solid. Otherwise, the battle remains still in the enemy's favor, so let's see what's going on. The reinforcements are still moving into position as best they can. Another unit of Cold One Riders attempts to move away, but once again, our Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is trying to maintain the safety of our artillery and our guns. Same thing, we got another exposed unit of halberds on the left flank in the same way that is on the right, and it's preventing any enemy units from flanking our guns. This one is thus fighting by itself here against the Skin Cohort and the Lothern Sea Guard. About 57 kills to their name, and they are certainly holding well. Well done, Immortal Landsknecht. Everyone's doing their job. Unfortunately, shadowing the enemy's movements with our lords means that we can't directly go after the enemy slan, which we normally or otherwise would be doing. Finally, the units of Rotting Promethean gunnery mobs have managed to move towards the enemy where our own halberds are engaged, rather than being engaged by themselves. And the two essentially providing support for each other and becoming more effective. The Withering comes down to, or the Curse of Years rather, comes down to debuff the enemy, and still see the rune on the field. Shouldn't be happening with the mod. Interesting. Some spells do it and some spells don't. They're not supposed to at all, but I guess maybe it's modified by SFO and therefore it is not working. Well, whatever. Still a reasonably, I hope, small amount of effects due to the effect reduction mod. Balance of power is still not at 50% in our favor, still in the enemies, but we've managed to secure our flanks, and at last it's time for the Blood Dragon Lord to hunt down the enemy Slan Mage Priest. And just covering up their casting spells, not even getting into combat, probably not something the Blood Dragon, who prizes martial prowess over anything else, would appreciate. Cold One Spear Riders or just Cold One Riders rather, have joined the Temple Guard and are attacking our units of Graveguard together. Volkmar's Dignity here suffering a little bit of damage, and by the looks of it, surrounded now and might start losing in melee. And the Gunners do finally manage to bring down the big old monster as the Bastille with Reeve of Crystal collapses. And the battle has devolved into a bunch of minor skirmishes plus the two sort of major fights around the center. With Volkmar's Dignity keeping the enemy sort of Temple Guard and Saurus locked in place, we are able to get a fair few good shots on them from our lines of handguns. You guys were supposed to volley when I said that. And there we go, keep firing right into the back of those Temple Guard, and oh wow. Just barely chipping away at these things. They have 20 physical resistance, 25 missile resistance, and unbreakable on top of all that. At least their armor is relatively low, but damn. I mean, it does make sense. Temple Guard and Vanilla aren't really as worth it for their cost compared to their effectiveness compared to regular Saurus units, especially considering how buff you can get regular Saurus, but in SFO, Temple Guard are extremely nasty. As we can see, even volleys directly into their backs from several handgun units barely chips away at their health. Just gonna have to keep focusing them down as best we can. Look at how few models drop. I think there's a one model drop from a volley from all the guns. Fortunately, though, we got zombies to get in their way and distract them while the volleys keep on coming. And bounce. Ooh, looks like the enemy Slan Mage Priest does manage to get a banishment off right in the center of our formation of halberds, but at last, the balance of power has shifted in our favor. The Slan Mage Priest down to nearly half HP as he's being constantly attacked by that Blood Dragon Lord. And we are starting to sort of fight on even ground in terms of numbers with the enemy. Don't have to worry as much about being overrun or about the enemy getting through our limited numbers of units. Alright, Temple Guard of course still fighting and tearing their way through zombie and to some degree Graveguard alike. The Volkmar's Dignity have absolutely held impressively for a long time now. And it looks like the guns are finally starting to tell against the Temple Guard there. You gotta love the addition of the Halberdiers. Alright, damn, these guys are debuffed. What's doing this? Oh, it's because they're crumbling. Well, Well, hopefully we can stop that with a couple of heals. And it looks like the Temple Guard will move away. We'll pop another Curse of Years on them to remove their armor piercing and their melee attack, though obviously the silenced doesn't really help here. Fortunately, though, the Curse of Years is a very big sort of area and will be quite helpful. It looks like the enemy Slan Mage has at last routed and shattered, and with the Slan Mage, so do his Temple Guard and the rest of his army finally give up, and giving once more the battle to Frederick. Very, very nice, buddy. It does feel like we did have to very much sort of work for this particular victory. And hopefully you will bring that Slan down. There we go. Down goes the big old toad, and, well, a Slan to your roll of kills is probably a pretty good one. Anyway, unfortunately, one of our rotting Promethean gunnery mobs is withering, and is continuing to do so. It's reached its healing cabinets very close to the end. We probably would like to chase and or gun down as many of the enemy units as we can, but with the unit melting away, it's not going to be possible. Maybe one more volley, and we gotta end the battle before we lose the Crabby Boys. Heroic victory, and a very, very nice one at that. What a fun fight. Alright, there we go. You gotta admit, this army does have a tendency to give us absolutely fantastic battles. Unfortunately, one of the bigger issues with this army is that it can't really chase enemies down, and thus a lot of the enemy units escaped. Though granted, they were helped by the fact that one of our units, one of our Crabby Boys here, the Rotting Promethean's gunnery mob, were stuck in crumbling at the end. So we could only chase for a few seconds while they continued to lose model after model. I still think crumbling should absolutely be disabled at the battle end, but or like you know, just add that when outcome is decided thing to them, because it's silly to for them to crumble away from 5 units to 0 units over time. But fortunately, we were able to keep them alive, even though at the cost of allowing a bunch of the enemy units to escape. Damage-wise, at 25k, 36k, and okay, nobody's beating that. 36k Necropolis Guard very much showed up, and we're right in the center of all the fighting, so that does make sense. And one of the gunners, by the looks of it, go figure, the drowned Fusiliers just got their name and just managed to edge out all the other gunners, racking up a solid 30,000 damage despite the lack of the buffs that they would normally have by being with the Vampire Coast. Granted, having Vampire Coast buffs would give them an additional 30 range, and that would have considerably increased their damage as well, as they can fire from better positions and obviously from further away. Crabby Boys did well, Caronites did okay, but eventually to be replaced by Rotting Promethean, or not Rotting Prometheans, by the Necrofex Colossi, and then the deck gunners, 41 and 42k, very solid as well, but they're deck gunners, you always expect them to do well. Dominate captives, please. Alright, and obviously these guys are going to back off. I'd say decent likelihood that they attack us again next turn. Channeling Staff, unnecessary. Crone, also not really particularly useful. But the 2 swords we got will, well, hopefully turn into something more useful. Zlatlan, oh! They're going to Levi the port, that's interesting. Was not expecting that. Zlatlan, close victory, and it'll kill our units off. We're going to besiege them, we'll give them a chance to attack us in the field, or whatever it is they want to do here. Either way, they'll fail, and we might even heal up a teensy bit. Let's also apply our points while we're at it. We do have... Let's get the Unliving Host. I do want Honor or Death, obviously, but the additional buffs to the Necropolis Guard, the various halberd-wielding Graveguard is going to be quite helpful here. And then we'll do... 2 points. Ah, yes, Barrow Guardians for the White King. Maybe I should put 2 White Kings in this army just for another unit of Barrow Guardians, just in case. Maces for when the pike and shot are in trouble. And alright, We Are the Elite gives additional armor. That's interesting. That might warrant a few of these guys in Gorst's army. It's certainly something to think about. And because it'll be additional armor for zombies. It's not a lot of armor, but, well, yeah, I'll think about it. Let's get the steamed combatants in case the enemy attacks us next turn. Like so. And then the Necromancer, of course, you will get Arcane Conduit. Alright, that was an easy pick. You do have the Unholy Lodestone, and there's not much to do otherwise. Then wait, I would, however, like to, since we have such limited items, get the newly acquired... Where was it here? Berserker Sword. And the newly acquired, I guess, Shrieking Blade? Yes, fuse those into a Forbidden Rod. Nice, nice. In fact, lose the Channeling Staff, gain the Forbidden Rod. Beautiful. Channeling Staff cannot be combined with anything because, yeah, once again, we need more items. You know what? I think maybe we'll give you the Helm of Discord. It would be nice to have one in every army. It's just that we obviously don't have enough to give everybody everything. Anyway, there we go. And it should help if we need to fight. Oh! Huh, there's a decent likelihood that they attack us again and we have a little bit of a rematch as there is another stack here. Frankly, we could probably just do this, but then they'll besiege us and it'll be a whole thing. And the others will still kill it, even though this will be an easy battle. I don't know, I might do this one between the episodes, but we'll see. Although, actually, speaking of between the episodes, unfortunately, in this this one, we did not, in fact, reach the engagement threshold, but luckily, this is episode lucky number 13, where we lower the engagement threshold in the first place. Though it was a very, very close thing, anyway. Anyway, from now on, 300 likes and 50 comments, so the next episode will be an hour long as well. The next threshold lowering, as usual, will be on episode 30, though, frankly, I doubt this campaign will go that long, because, let's face it, we are doing quite well. We got 4 of our Books of Nagash. Our long victory is, well, I'm going to say assured, but quite close as well. We're missing the Plane of Bones, which we are on the approach to, and Broken Teeth, which we are also on the approach to, though Manny will probably want to take Nagashazar himself. Huh. Though they have been damaged by the Skaven Plague there, so in theory we could have maybe sent Wilmar. But, nah, the garrison there is super elite, so... Anyway. What else do we want to do? Oh, Wilhelm is on the approach to Black Crag. Now, we are capable of declaring war on these guys, or we could ignore it all and just go for Emmerich right now. Probably no need. The problem, or one of the problems here, is that the frickin' Clan Rictus, we can't declare war on them as yet, at least not until we get Vlad. Because I don't want to do anything to damage our chances of Confederation. Yeah, we got 1 turn until Confederation as well. So I guess we're going to go after the Iron Claw works, eh? What do we have in terms of defenses here? Ooh, fairly nice. Maybe they'll sally out. Alright, let's declare war on these guys. And, oh, the Skaven and the Creeping Death will join. That's not a huge deal, though. Yeah, do it. Got our allies to help? Sure. And on the bright side, it'll keep all our vassals a little bit friendlier with each other by fighting the same factions. You, sir, get into channeling stance and strike at Black Crag. Like so, sit there and hopefully they'll sally out because it's not a bad army. And, well, the game does like to underestimate our ghouls. Next up, Kadan von Senkenhof. We are now at war with Clan Scryer. Actually, out of curiosity. Oh, so unfortunately being at war with Clan Scryer, would have actually been nice if the parts of Sartosa became at war with them, though I suppose Icatan would have moved out. Any chance we could ask you guys to join this war? Clan Scryer? Yeah, they really need to invest in the vassal management system. It's kind of silly. Frankly, just at least borrowing the armies at least gives us something, but... it's silly. At least we could do something now with them. Otherwise, they won't join any wars. We've been trying to get frickin' Luther Harkin to join any of the wars in Lustre, and he refuses to join any of them. But he sailed on over here to try to steal Deadhead monoliths because we had already basically destroyed the faction. Once again, Draika, the only ever useful ally I've ever had in this game. But anyway, Kadan, you're going to pop into Necromantic Ritual stance, and you're going to move towards Dragonhorn Mines. You can't reach them in 1 turn anyway. And we'll be getting ready to transfer those Tomb Scorpions to Otto Stillman here, a new Strigoi bloodline I recruited between the episodes, who now has that Slaver trait, which gives the Ravenous Hunger to the entire army, and thus potential for actually healing the Tomb Scorpions, as otherwise, obviously, without heals, they suffer problems. While the Skaven Plague is here... Wait. I guess we just go to Bitter Bay and ignore the... Okay. Oh. You can't travel very far, can you? I don't want to get stuck in the Gashazar, which means we're going to have to suffer attrition. Alright, just go. Bypass it, head to Bitter Bay. And sorry to the Knights of Caledor, but we're going to attack them as well. Huh. Although, we could sail out and help out with this. There's potential for that as well, but we will see. But Thilda von Sinclair, ready to go now. And I guess since we're liable to attack the Knights of Caledor, you can be on the approach, though we might wait a few turns before we attack them directly. Move here. Because Bathilda has some units coming in, which we'll want to get. Wilhelm's good. Gustav Grigorovich, you are going to pick up this Remnants of Battle. Oh. I should have done full speed stance because Remnants of Battle, yeah, doesn't have any battles. Free Banner of Eternal Flame, eh? Well, that's interesting. Do we have anybody that gives fire weakness to anybody? Generally, we're the ones weak to fire, but I am wondering whether we can get some fire weakness going somewhere and then combine that with somebody. We'll take a look as we go. Alright, a recruiter. You are here to recruit, but there's nothing to recruit here, at least not anything needed right now. There was a Theobald Bachmann. You are fine where you are, because Red Duke can't move, and we're waiting on that, as well as Kemmler. Alright. We also have you potentially moving towards the Skull Reef, but we gotta wait. Anyway, now that we have Kemmler on the field, it does mean that we need more Banshees, and thus Banshee capacity. The question is, do we have any place where we can actually build another Banshee building? We need a tier 3, probably main settlement, and I guess we could do Death Gorge. Not what I was going to do here, but it's also going to take 4 turns and reduce our control as well. But what are you going to do? We need the Cairn Wraiths and Hex Wraiths capacity, as Kemmler will need at least some. About 8 maybe. 4 Cairn Wraiths, 4 Hex Wraiths, just to do half Ghosties, half non-Ghosties. And give them, and with, you know what, 2 armies with Ghosties, that just gives the Ghosties more time to shine, since we've been waiting a fair bit for them. Anyway, I guess we'll end the turn, we'll get attacked by these guys again, and Frederick, while damaged, will have to fight off the lizards once more. And no rights that we want to pop, or at the very least I certainly don't want to get -10 control while we're in Confederation, even for 1 turn. Even though this would be a nice influx of money, but we'll see. Unassigned skill points, building upgrade available? No, at least not right now. Lord not moved, outpost available? Oh, Sylvania. That does nothing for us. Diplomacy, let's take a quick look at you. Knights of Cat, I feel bad because they really want to trade, but once again, you have to choose between the living and the dead. Seducers of Sonish, interestingly, want to ally, but they hate the undead, and that wouldn't work for the exact same reason it wouldn't work with the other living. I wonder if there are any other vampiric factions alive anywhere. It looks like the Silver Pinnacle has been destroyed, unfortunately, so that's unlikely. Clan Eschen, Itza... Maybe peace out with Itza? I don't want to force Luther Harkin into a war with Bordello Errant, which is going to happen in a few turns. Yeah, let's peace out with Itza for now. Just so we don't have to deal with their stuff. Maybe allow them to fight the Dark Elves out there. Keep themselves busy. Arguelon we will not peace out with. Frankly, it would be fun to fight them out. Obviously not going to peace out with Kugath either. Alright, that sounds like an end turn to me. Unless we want to level up Manny, but I think we're okay. Go. Let's hope that I didn't forget any... What is this? What is this? Mercy with... damn, this guy builds good armies. What the heck? How does he... well, that's a Nurgle for you, I guess, but... Damn. He just died, and suddenly he has a full stack with Uncle Furuncle and 2... Ooh, Bile Trolls. That's not good for us. This is going to be concerning. Huh. I wonder if you can win this, Saved. It's going to be a hard fight for you. Give it a try.
I serve my sire.
Alrighty, here we go. A big old pile of dangerous units for us to face off against that. Well, frankly, I don't know whether we can pull it up, but we'll certainly give it the old college try. Now, the big advantage that we have here is that we have our units of of the garrison that we are free to sacrifice as needed. And I do mean sacrifice because unfortunately the disadvantage we have is that they are deployed on this side of the map, whereas our reinforcements are coming in here. The good part of that is they will have the sort of rocky terrain, the cliffside, to use as a pseudo wall, but the unfortunate aspect of this is our very, very slow moving infantry will simply be unable to reach them before it's time. So the way that we've deployed is thus. We have all of our graveguard from our garrison hidden in the copse of trees here, hopefully away from the enemy army, as we will try to link up. The zombies, the skeleton warriors, and the bats, however, are not hidden. The idea here is we allow the zombies and the skeleton warriors to stay on this side of the map, the only visible units on the map until our reinforcements arrive, to sit here and distract as many of the enemy units as possible. The more units come here, then the longer it'll take for them to cross the entire map all this way to get back to us. It does look like with our reinforcements arriving, the vast majority of the enemy is moving towards us, but with at least a few units distracted, all the flyers chasing after our bats, this is, well, it's working reasonably like we like. Unfortunately, the AI does like to cheat with regards to its ability to see hidden units, and as we can clearly see, this unit of plague ogres is hovering very suspiciously near to all of our hidden graveguard. All of these guys moving towards our line, and these guys hidden, going straight for the hidden units. So they're going to find them, and there isn't much we can do. Did try to peel the vampiress away because she is going to be much faster moving than the rest of the infantry, the graveguard, and we'll try to get her to our lines. Hopefully Nurglings charged in, and it'll be a little bit of Nurgling versus zombie action. I mean, it's a Nurgle versus Vamps, and once again, a sort of like on like in that regard. What do you guys prefer, zombies or Nurglings? They're both very fun units. Nurglings are very entertaining, but anyway, with the Nurglings, the enemy big boys have arrived. We've got several or a bunch of plague ogres, 2 or 3 units here together at once, and we are going to have to countercharge them with our Vargulfs and our single entities. Now that the enemy's charges are broken, we can send the halberdiers in and help them to start doing damage. Beasts of Nurgle, together with Uncle Furuncle, are the center of the enemy line, and by the looks of it are protecting each other and working together to try to sort of shove their way into the center of our formation. Over on over in the back line, our sacrificial units are nearly done for, but they've held admirably for this entire time and distracted the enemy. Same thing with the bats. I believe 1 or 2 of them have been caught. The others are still chasing or running around and escaping. And unfortunately, with the enemy somehow magically having found the trees where our units were hidden, we are going to have to fight. Fortunately, the enemy lord is here. He did lead the units of plague ogres and bile trolls in, but he will get surrounded by halberdiers. That's a lot of sharp things poking at him. And he is, fortunately for us, stuck there. So we're going to leave the halberds attacking the enemy lord, while the great weapons and the sword and borders will move to attack the bile trolls and the plague ogres. Not the best idea. Well, it just sort of happened this way, as we probably would be better off using the great weapons against the lord and the halberds against the trolls and the ogres. But, wow, this guy got stuck on the halberds, and he is still a large unit, so he'll still take damage. He's down to about half HP as well. And the rest of the battle is still ongoing, and will probably be ongoing for a while, but the enemy does not have Lord support here, and we very much do. We did have one other hidden unit. Our Black Knights waited in this copse of trees for the entire time since our reinforcements arrived and have at last charged forward. The units of Plague Ogres that were being focused down by our Vargulfs get hit in the back by our Black Knights, which were held in reserve and will hopefully get chased down before they can rally. This also means that we can switch our Vargulfs now, instead of attacking the Plague Ogres, which they were doing before, to attacking the Beasts of Nurgle together with the Crypt Horrors, and then all together can go after Uncle Furuncle if we manage to get that far. But it is looking fairly decent so far. The balance of power finally at last shifts in our favor at about 55 to 45%. And the Beasts of Nurgle not having such a great time now that the Crypt Cores are surrounding them, and they got some hits in on them from the Vargulfs, but we're actually going to peel the Vargulfs away to join here. Unfortunately, we had to move away the Black Knights due to our enemy Rotflies moving in, and of course the Black Knights being relatively fragile. So the Vargulfs will peel away to join the garrison sacrificable units of Graveguard to attack the enemy Plague Ogres. And that's a bad matchup for the enemy Plague Ogres, I'd wager. It's very difficult to deal with Vargulfs in general. They're fast, they've got mass, they hit very well. And they can deal with most threats decently well. Frankly, you're probably best off just mobbing them with anti-large infantry, as these monstrous infantry will lose models fighting them. Especially with two of them fighting together and just regenerating themselves. Out here, we're just trying to distract as many enemy units as possible with, once again, our sacrificable Graveguard. They are fighting the enemy Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle, but said Plague Bearers are absolutely tearing these guys apart. Once again, you gotta remember that vampire units, or vampire counts units, or at the very least the whites, the non-vampiric units, the raised units, they are very lackluster without support. They need their necros, they need their corpse carts, their supporting stuff, in order to make them better than other infantry, which they definitely can be and are, but only if they have those supports. If they don't, they get torn apart rather quickly. And besides, it's a garrison unit, so it didn't have any buffs. Out here, we have the same thing happening. Our sword and board units of Graveguard sacrificing themselves to distract as many enemies as possible. The Flyers have no longer given up chasing the enemy Bats, the Pox Riders, and the Demon Spew Forsaken Regiment of Renown as well. But once again, they're just being held there and distracted. The enemy lord, I believe, has been run down at last by the Black Knights here and the Graveguard with halberds, who are going to join the fray against the enemy buzzing little Rotflies. It does look like, however, we've managed to take care of some units of trolls, as well as Plague Ogres. Uncle Furuncle goes down at last. Missed this one, but frankly, we'll probably see him again. Either with these guys or with Tamarkan, who is just north of the, or with Festus. Somebody. Definitely. And Festus can get Uncle for Uncle too, right? I'm pretty sure he can, like 99%. Is there a limit to, I think the same, can the same factions get the same Regiment of Renown at the same time? Or, like, are there 3 Uncle for Uncles at least on the field at all times? I'm just curious. I've definitely seen multiple copies of the same Regiment of Renown before, but that might be when the AI uses them and the player uses them at once. But anyway, that's a question for another time. Bile Trolls are booking it on out of there, and it looks like our main line, led by our Necromancer, has survived. We're still very much in the fight out here, or still sacrificing these Graveguard, but they've kept all of these units distracted for a very long time now, and have most definitely served their purpose. They will fight to the last once again. That's why you got to love the undead. The whites fear nothing. And it'll be a little bit of a while of them just distracting the enemy like this, while we make sure that the enemy mortal units, the enemy units that don't disintegrate, are run down by our knights and our Vargulfs. We are preparing for a win here, as the enemy no longer has the capacity to make the win, so our Vargulfs are each chasing down each one of the units of Plague Ogres, and our Black Knights are helping out as well. And there we go. Certainly don't want these guys coming back, because it's a very solid stack, and certainly not one that the auto-resolve would ever let us, well, auto-resolve. The Rotflies have peeled away from the units of Graveguard now, most of them having been destroyed at this point, as in the garrison Graveguard. The Graveguard that we brought with us are still very much, I'm gonna say alive, but you know what I mean. And here they have their supports. They have their, I think they have the red line buffs, I actually don't remember, but they're looking a lot stronger. And the Rotflies are beginning to melt away. The bounce power at about 85% in our favor now, and it's just a matter of time. More Rotflies will touch down, but the zombie hordes, together with the Graveguard that were led by our Necromancer, are moving on to the map battlefield proper. And I'm sure all of these Rotflies and other units will have racked up a massive number of kills and damage over the course of the battle. Let's, ooh, there we go, Pox Riders. They certainly did great work. But alas for them, they begin disintegrating and melting away, and the rot flies, by the looks of it, are going to follow suit. The balance of power shifts 100% in our favor, and it's just a matter of time. We will chase down all the mortal units that we can while we wait for the demons to disintegrate. There we go. A very nice fight. You gotta admit that these fights with zombie-heavy armies do feel very appropriate for the vampire counts. You don't have a lot of elites to rely upon, and that also makes sense from both a loreful and realism perspective, as obviously armies aren't generally composed of nothing but elites. And there we go, a fantastic fight, considering the elite nature of the enemy army. All those darn plague ogres, Uncle Furuncle, the bile trolls, the rot flies, etc. Worked out very nice. And the Pox Riders are quite good. 48,000 damage on the Pox Riders, yeah. Loving them in SFO, and excited to play Nurgle eventually again in SFO. The Vampiress sacrificed every single one of her pawns to delay the enemy, and it worked out quite nicely as it separated the enemy army and allowed Saved to fight relatively, well, not uncontested perhaps, but certainly not as contested as the enemy would have liked. In terms of the eliteness comparison of the armies, we definitely were at a major disadvantage, but still managed to pull it off. Of course, the enemy has the luck, and the Uncle Furuncle and one of the Beasts of Nurgle, the most annoying units, both somehow, of course, survived, and the Demon's Few ran away, but otherwise we're good. 4,000 gold for our trouble, thank you, and Saved's still good. Hopefully he didn't pick up the plague from all that, though I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Now let's see. Okay, Deathmaster Snitch, you want peace? You're currently at war with the northern provinces. You are not at war with the western provinces, eh? So I guess there is no real purpose to actually being at peace with you. And what we could do is we could force the western provinces to attack the Golden Order and have them take their territory. That'd be a decent idea. Oh, wow. Oh, wait, I thought that was us. I thought the spirits of Shanlin really hated us, but it seems to be the rats that they hate. Anyway, yeah, sure. Counter, we will peace out with you, at least for now. Probably not for too long, especially considering they're allied with the village, so they'll always hate us, but let them focus on the northern provinces for now, as we've chosen the western provinces to be our friends, because they share a contiguous border with us, and, well, let's face it, the Iron Dragon is a little bit more morally ambiguous, a little bit more likely to be down with what we have going on. Anyway, might be just because he's high on Warpstone, but yeah. Anyway, with that, folks, we are out of time. Some absolutely fantastic battles in this episode, and by the looks of it, more fantastic battles to come. I love my vampire campaigns, but damn am I loving this vampire campaign, and go figure. We'll start off the next episode with Wilhelm of the Grim Banquet and his ghouls attacking the garrison, or attacking the now sallying garrison of the Iron Claw Orcs, and probably get embroiled in a proper fight with both them and the Scryer Skaven over the next few turns as we head north towards the Empire. And who knows, maybe at the time this turn ends, we'll be able to confederate Vlad. Find out next time on Mannfred von Carstein. All glory to the algorithm. Likes and comments below for the hour-long episodes, and thanks for watching.